Barbenheimer draft. Let's lay out what this draft exactly is. One of the most exciting aspects of both of these films are the casts that they boast, with exciting Academy Award winners, nominees, blockbuster stars that splurge across all of these posters. The promotion of both of these films has been excellent. So we thought, let's talk about movie stars. Who would we want on our team of movie stars between these two films? We're going to draft and combine the two casts. Ricky Flex, what other rules do we want to establish before we begin drafting?
I don't know. Just who we want on our team. Do we want representing us? I think is how I'm looking at this. Who do I want? Who do I want to be? I think is also another aspect of this. I don't know if there's any rules. I don't know if there's like a male-female ratio we want to do. I think that's the only one that we would talk about, like at least 2 of each gender, maybe.
2 of each gender. I'm gonna have to think about that, Ricky, because I think you have to have at least 1 female, because I think there's 3 that stick out, right, from these 2 casts combined. If I look closely, right, I'm thinking about couple specifically from Oppenheimer, and then 1 from Barbie that really, if you force someone to draft like an actress that's not on the level of those 3, I think that's kind of unfair. Draft best available. Just let it rip.
No rules.
And I'm going to be drafting the chicks anyway. Some of the highest profile actors for both of these films are female, right? So I just think we let it rip.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Then let's do it. And I don't think we should be like, okay, you need 2 from Barbie, 2 from Oppenheimer, best available, okay? Pick every selection like it's number 1 overall. So Ricky Flex, do you have a coin on you so we can decide the draft order?
Same coin as always.
It's always tails from Dr. O. Flip that damn thing.
It is tails.
Let's go. I'm going number 1. I'm going with the first overall pick. And I mentioned, Ricky, that we're going to see some females on the draft board here. We're not going to have any gender bias during this draft. And that's why the number 1 overall pick for the Barbenheimer casting draft, Margot Robbie. She is number 1 overall here. So part of this draft is not just like, okay, who is the biggest name available? We talk about her career. We're going to talk about these actors, how we think they're going to perform in the movie. Like when we look at these 2 respective movies, she is going to be the strongest part of the Barbie film. Whether she has a stronger role than the lead of Christopher Nolan's film is a different story, but she is the strongest female movie star that we have. You might criticize, right, her box office success with Babylon, okay? But she has a track record long before Babylon of being a very successful blockbuster actress. She's very versatile. I think this is going to open up a different side to where she can do the drama, right? She can do the action superhero stuff. But at the same time, this is a new opportunity to see the comedic chops that maybe we haven't seen before. She's the most beautiful actress in Hollywood. I know I made comments about Haley Atwell last week being close to that level, right, of on-screen appeal. And I stand by that, but she's not there yet. Margot Robbie has years and years on Haley Atwell. She's got ways to go. Margot Robbie, number 1 overall pick. I'm picking Barbie, number 1.
I was going to mention Haley Atwell comments from last week, so I'm glad you confirmed that she is not there yet. This was my number 2. I think this is probably a lot of people's number 1, right? I think I'll say it. My favorite, my crush in Hollywood for ever since Wolf of Wall Street, 10 years. And she's proven, and since then, not also including that movie, that she's a phenomenal actress, Oscar nominated, right? And now she's playing a part where everyone kind of would cast her. You know, Rosario Dawson was always cast as Ahsoka. Margot Robbie was always the cast for Barbie, and she's doing the whatever the role.
Titular.
Thank you. Not in English. I cannot pronounce anything, as you all know.
Titular.
So this is it. So I respect the pick. I could have had her at number 1. That was my number 2, so I wouldn't have gotten back to you. So it's a great pick.
Yeah, just wasn't gonna exude any toxic masculinity and trying to exclude the fact that she is, right, the present and future of movies, dude. Like there are so many people here that have been movie stars, okay? People that are on the come up. She is in her prime right now. And if I was to make a movie right now and I needed to act like an actress, I'm picking Margot Robbie. Everything she does is must see, aside from maybe Amsterdam, and that wasn't her fault. There's a lot of people in that damn movie, like Christian Bale's in that freaking movie, and like no one saw it. So I'm happy. You're up, first rounder, second overall. Go.
So now I have to go with my number one. And for this one, it's more like I got to stand by one of my guys. And I'm going with the Goss God, Ryan Gosling. Okay. I want to pick someone that's not quote unquote past their peak. And I think a lot of the actors that are on this list are past their peak. And I don't want to go with someone on the come up either this early. I want someone that right now I can confidently say they're one of, if not the best at what they do. And I think Ryan Gosling right now, you put him in any role that's like literally any role, he's such a versatile actor, he will be phenomenal in because he is a phenomenal actor and he's very good looking, great nickname. And it's similar to Jake G, another guy I defend till I die, where he kind of had his huge run, got Oscar noms, didn't get the wins, right? Maybe we look back and be like, how the hell did that get a win? But we definitely look back and say, what a performance or what a movie. And he's at the heart of it. Ryan Gosling is like that guy to me. He'll get back to that one day. And people are even saying this movie, he might even like people are claiming for an Oscar nom here. That might be a little far-fetched, but all I'm saying is Goss God, when he's in it, he's going to win it. So Gosling is my first pick.
Do you think we talk about like that elusive Oscar from early in Gosling's career when he's doing a lot of independent films, right? Staying away from the blockbuster realm, unlike his previous outings within the last couple of years. But do you think people are going to grade like his performance and like when it comes to like Oscar time, like it's a superhero role where it's like it's still IP and we still don't want to like honor this compared to like the independent films or like the more passionate, like I guess I don't know, less commercially driven films? Do you think that's still going to be a factor when Oscar season comes around?
I think it would be more of a factor if it was for a leading role. Like I'm assuming this is going to be for a supporting role. If they were smart, that's how they would promote it. And for that reason, I think there's a more openness to IP at the Oscars for sure. Even if you just look at like legacy sequels and Top Gun Maverick being nominated for Best Picture. I know Tom Cruise didn't get nominated for Best Actor, but that's a different story. I think here, because it's such a different role with a Greta Gerwig, I think he has a better chance than like a superhero movie. So I still think it's far-fetched, but I give it a bigger chance than a action movie, pure action movie.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like Angela Bassett got nominated for an Oscar, and some people expected her to win.
Supporting.
Right? After falling, yeah, that's what I mean. Like after Jamie Lee Curtis won, but here I think he will have a legitimate chance at a nomination because this is like the movie event of the year, and how is the Oscars going to exclude like half of the best box office opening weekend that we've had, like simultaneous release between two films in quite some time? I feel like if you have to honor someone, a supporting role is more likely than the lead role. So I like that. This guy can do it all. And I am not a hater on his recent decisions, right? Like he did his service, right? For like the world of acting early in his career, right? What he contributed, the passion, right? For the smaller scale projects. So what he did to Gray Man, right? It's not the end of the world. People act like he fell off. You know what? Reading the early reviews of Barbie doesn't seem like he's fallen off. It seems like he's actually found something new. He's found something new. Like, and it started with The Nice Guys or even Crazy Stupid Love in 2013, Nice Guys 2016, and now he's totally leaning into his comedic abilities in 2023. And like he is number 2 on my draft board, right? Definitely was going to be the male actor.
Wow, did not see that coming from you.
He is honestly, we're talking about like if I was to cast a movie tomorrow, who would I want? I'd be like Ryan Gosling. Like yes. I think he is just magnetic and he can do whatever you ask of him. All right. So I love that pick. Don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him, Hollywood. He makes one Netflix movie and you think it's the end of the world. Ricky Flex, kick off the second round.
Wow, I'm so happy that you had him at number 2. I honestly didn't. I was like afraid to pick it because I was like, maybe I can get him in the third round back
No,
to
what?
me.
No shot.
Who I thought would be your number 2. And now I'm gonna go a little nostalgia, and I'm gonna go for the comeback king, and that's Robert Downey Jr. I just have to go with Iron Man. That's my favorite Avenger. I have to do it, and like it can go previous work, but I'm just saying it's Iron Man. We're a huge superhero pod. Like I feel like RDJ has to be picked early. I think this would be heavily debated. I think you can go a lot of different routes. You could literally pick so many people at this number 3 pick, in my opinion. I think the top 2 would be like, yes, clear. Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling. But for me, this was like highly contested. But for me, being the superhero guy, and also we live in America. We love comebacks. RDJs for me.
My 3. So we're aligned for the most part so far. This is the performance I'm looking forward to most in Oppenheimer, alongside almost at the same level as a Cillian Murphy. All right. Sorry for teasing a pick. We're only talking about 2 movies here. Robert Downey Jr., he's talked about like him trying to kind of transition from like the MCU from the past 15 years back into the more dramatic type of acting, what a challenge it's been. I want to see what level like he brings it in this film, because like that nervousness or anxiety that he's bringing, it seems like with the promotion of the last week for Oppenheimer, he has a much more substantial role than was earlier teased. So, and he doesn't look like Iron Man in this movie. He does not look like a guy who played a superhero for 15 years, right? I want to see if he can like shed that, what that audience sees at a surface level, and can he dive deep into something and sink his teeth into it and make it like what made him a star in the first place, right? And I can't wait to see what he brings to the table. Remember, we are on Operation Get Robert Downey Jr. a supporting Oscar. I love Goss God. I would root so much harder for RDJ to get an Oscar nom for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I think I would too. I would easily too, on the older side. Similar to Cruz, like over 60 for RDJ, more of a chance here. It would be interesting if we did a draft instead of what we're doing now. It would be like performances we're looking forward to the most, or like performances we think will be the best, like out of Barbenheimer. That I still would say RDJ is high up here, like a top 5 pick. If we kept the same, because I'm really looking forward to his performance. Yeah, like RDJ, like again, Tropic Thunder as well. Love that movie. Sleeper comedy of the 2000s. You think of probably another guy on this list that you'd be thinking of that will get picked. His comedies of the 2000s. You think of Superbad. People forget of Tropic Thunder. I'm a diehard supporter of Tropic Thunder, and RDJ Oscar nom for that movie.
Yeah, so an Oscar nom for like a comedic role. Like this is like the most serious he's been in a film in quite some time, right? I'm looking to see what he brings to the table. Knowing him, he'll rise to the occasion. With that being said, let's move on to this the 4th overall pick. I have to go with a staple of movies from the past 25 years. I have to go with one of the last true movie stars that we have, one that has gone from a writer early on to boast to like propel his career, someone who has become an action star, then an Oscar nominated actor, and somehow a actor that can carry a movie at the box office with name alone. These actors are few and far between. That's why 4th overall, I am picking Matt Damon. This one felt easy compared to the tough decisions I have to make later on in this draft. We are taking the characters that will most likely, right, have the most screen time aside from one actor in both of these films, right? Ken and Barbie, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon also seems like he's going to have a substantial amount of screen time alongside Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Damon is like someone that's one of the most reliable actors. One of the most reliable. I can't wait to see him bouncing off of a Cillian Murphy. And it's got to be like really comforting for a guy like Cillian Murphy, who hasn't led a Christopher Nolan movie before, despite being a frequent collaborator, to have that experienced lead that's alongside him, right? I think he's gonna like be a great companion to Cillian Murphy in this movie for them to like play off one another. Yeah, Matt Damon. it's just one of the most recognizable names in Hollywood.
Yeah, you said it there, and it's not just his performances. How like he's an action star, Oscar nominated, a writer. I also just charming. We mentioned Jimmy Kimmel last episode, his relationship there, how he's in cameos in all these different movies. He is Hollywood. He's like one of our last, like similar to how we talk about Tom Cruise. Matt Damon's also like one of our last like true A-list Hollywood stars, you know? So yeah, I can't blame you for picking. This was my number 4 overall on my big board here.
Okay. So I think it's after 4 that this gets hazy because there are so many ways you can think about it. Because I think about a star here and now. I think about like filmographies from some of the greatest actors we've ever had. And I think about like, what is the screen time going to be in this movie? So my next pick is I'm not sure of what her screen time is going to be in this film. And we see images of her. I think she's going to play in like stills of her. We've seen slight moments in trailers. I think she's going to play a more important role in the film than we anticipate. I got my feminist hat on. I'm going Florence Pugh with the 5th overall pick. This puts Ricky Flicks in kind of a bind because I have 2 females on my list and he's going to look like a misogynist if he doesn't pick a female now. But it's not a strategy pick. Like she is also right behind Margot Robbie for the actress that I look forward to and almost view as must watch if she's in a film. And it seems like her career, despite the, what was the movie last year? Don't Worry, Darling. Despite all the drama around that, she seemed to come away unscathed. She seemed to come away unscathed. You know, she's like the one that like survived and she was looked at as like not the reason for that movie's failures, but rather like the strength of that film. She's going to be in Dune Part 2. She's in a Christopher Nolan movie this year. 2 of like the greatest directors, right? Villeneuve and Nolan taking on Florence Pugh. She's a Marvel superhero right now. Certainly seems like she's very versatile and capable of leading her own film, but just seems like a nice surprise that you have to remind yourself sometimes that she's in this film. But I want her to have substantial screen time as much as possible in this film. Florence Pugh, 5th overall.
This hurts. This was my number 6, so I would have taken it on this roundabout. She's one of next up, you know, if not here, she's here. Like, I think she's not here because she's not starring in Oppenheimer, as in like the opposite Cillian Murphy role kind of is, but like in a more supporting way, or Dune Part 2, you know. I think she's right there. I think she is so impressive. I love Midsommar and Thunderbolts. That's basically her movie, like on the hero side.
She's like the Iron Man of that film, like he was to the Avengers, you know?
Yeah.
I view her the same way. More so than like a Captain America, the Avengers. I think she's kind of got some like badassery to her.
So, yeah, this is a tough one. I like even movies I don't like The Wonder. You just see how talented she is as an actress. So you could argue that she's like I know there's a lot of talented young actors right now, but I do think she is probably the best talent-wise. Like Saoirse Ronan and her are probably duking it out for like the best talent. Like I think Zendaya is a great movie star and she's a great actress, but I would pick Florence Pugh on a pure acting basis. Probably. I'm not going to definitively say that. I love Florence Pugh. This is a tough one, but good pick. Yeah, it's a great pick.
Like similar to Margot Robbie, like they can work with any director that they choose. You know, like they're going to be one of the top, like cream of the crop, top of the list. If we can't get her, if we can't get Margot Robbie, we're trying to get Florence Pugh. If we can't get Florence Pugh, we're taking a step down to the next person. You know, that's the way I kind of view her. I think she's right near the top of, right, the most sought after actresses. But Ricky Flex, your 3rd round pick.
Okay. Well, I know this one. My number 5. And I'm picking arguably the funniest man alive, and that's Will Ferrell.
Wow.
I just need to pick Will Ferrell. I need to be funny. I'm not a funny person. I would love to be funny. Will Ferrell. And some of my favorite films of all time he's in. Also great at cameos, Wedding Crashers. And another defender here, one of my picks here. All my picks I've like hard stands in one fashion. He's a great dramatic actor. Stranger Than Fiction. Phenomenal movie.
At least he was.
At least he was. I'll say that. Great movie. Highly recommend. It used to be on Netflix. Just Google it. Watch it. Amazing movie. Will Ferrell. Like I just want to be funny. I know he's past his prime. I know. But like we're also taking into account body of work, like we did with Matt Damon. So Will Ferrell is my next pick.
I'm excited to see Will Ferrell just in a large scale movie again. You know, it's been forever since we had him in this position. And Ricky Flex, I know you love to harken back to Stranger Than Fiction. I love that movie too. But what if I told you that movie came out 18 years ago? What if,
Okay, yeah.
what if that movie came out 18? I think it was 05, dude.
Oh my God.
18 years ago. So we know he's capable, but he's going to have to dig deep. But he's not going to be playing a highly dramatic role in this movie.
Right.
But this is where it's interesting. It's like, hey, do we judge him? Right? Do you want him on your team because of what he's accomplished? Right? Are you signing him to a 3-year contract because he's what he's given you in the franchise the last few years, or are you doing it based on are you doing it based on what he's going to give you later on? We are hoping for a renaissance a little bit for our guy Will Ferrell. It's on the horizon. We know he's going to be playing. Is he playing Madden? Is he playing John Madden? Is that
Will Ferrell?
Yeah. Who's playing John Madden?
I
feel like
don't know.
He's playing. I think he's playing John Madden.
He is. Yes, he's playing. Rumored. It's rumored. IMDb says it's rumored he's playing John Madden.
Because I think they hit the checkup like I want to say a month ago. So this hopefully will get him going in the right direction. Will Ferrell, one of our favorite childhood actors, so I don't blame you for picking him. Nostalgia up the yin yang, up the wazoo. So he was eventually on my list. I had him, I think, at 8 on my list, which feels disrespectful just because we grew up with that man. Seems like the villain potentially of Barbie, though. So maybe he's getting substantial screen time too. I like to pick.
Yeah, I think that's our prediction. He's the villain, Mattel CEO. Okay. And now you put me in a bind because, yeah, I'm gonna look misogynistic if I don't pick a woman here. But it'll be a reach in my opinion.
Are you going to let it slide back to me and I get 3 women on my board and potentially 0 on yours? What will I do? What will Ricky do now? A lot of implications here.
This is a tough one too. Like I could pick an Oscar winner. I could pick Christopher Nolan said it is the greatest actor alive right now. I could pick the lead in this next Oppenheimer movie. I'm at a crossroads. You put me in a real bind here. This is the benefits of having the first pick. You know what? I'd basically punt this draft if I do this. God, I know there's a time clock coming.
I'm gonna put like a clip of like Kevin Costner in Draft Day. Right here.
Give me all my picks back. Give me David goddamn Putney.
Stop killing time. Make a pick.
All right. Screw it. I'll pick Emily Blunt. Edge of Tomorrow, Sicario, reliable action star, Quiet Place Part 2, proving that she can lead the movie. Emily Blunt, fantastic. I'll take her.
She's going to have a really interesting part in Oppenheimer because she's the wife of a complicated figure like Robert Oppenheimer, played by Cillian Murphy. Like we're going to see a different side of Oppenheimer when he's going like one-on-one with his wife. Right. And there's a lot of like marriage issues potentially going on there with like the love life of Oppenheimer, but also like what mentally can she like draw out of a Cillian Murphy like during this movie. I think it's going to get they're going to be very different tones from like Oppenheimer with the scientist compared to his home life. So I think there's an interesting dynamic to her role here, but I think Emily Blunt, she's fantastic. I wasn't going to pick her in the next 2 picks. All right. As much as I do adore her. Good pick. She also extremely versatile. It seems like we know she has the potential to be like right there alongside Margot Robbie and Florence Pugh, but like just hasn't ascended for whatever reason. She's kind of been bogged down a little bit by the IP stuff, blockbuster stuff these last couple of years, but we know she has the potential to be right up there with the best if she's not already up there now.
Yeah, you said it.
She's badass. She's a badass. I want her to do like. Go ahead.
That was a tough pick. That was a tough pick.
I want to see her join like a Mission Impossible movie alongside Cruise and like run back Edge of Tomorrow.
But Corey did say there are new characters coming in Dead Reckoning Part 2. That will be significant players. So we'll wait and see.
Run it the hell back. All right. With that being said, it's on to me, and I'm picking the lead of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy. Okay. I appreciate this, Ricky Flicks, because Cillian Murphy's my guy, right? Always collaborating with Nolan, right? Nolan, both like your favorite director, one of mine. Cillian Murphy, he's always the bridesmaid, but never the bride in a Nolan movie. But what a special moment we have to have him taking on, right, the heaviest movie of Christopher Nolan's career. It's kind of beautiful when you think about their friendship and the trust that Nolan is putting in Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy has worked so hard to get to this point. I think he's very deserving of leading this movie. He has so many stars that are bigger than him, have done movies even bigger than Oppenheimer that are surrounding him, right? But he seems to have all the support of the cast around him. I loved him in Peaky Blinders. Okay, one of my favorite shows. It's one of my favorite shows, but like more so, Tommy Shelby's one of my favorite characters in the history of television. More so than like Peaky Blinders being an awesome show. Affinity for The Dark Knight. I love Cillian Murphy. Didn't love his actions in Dunkirk. You watched it earlier today or yesterday. But he has my heart. I loved him in Quiet Place Part 2. I think he has this chance now. And this is what Hollywood does. He could have this career, the second act of his career as a leading man. And I really pray that's what happens here, because there are a few people in Hollywood that have gone through, right, that career as a supporting actor and then gets this opportunity. I hope he goes on this insane run as a leading man now. I root so hard for him. Cillian goddamn Murphy.
And his breakout role 28 days later, it looks like pre-production 28 months later. And, gets another starring role back-to-back after Oppenheimer. And then after that, like, let's see what he does next. Like, Christopher Nolan, will he be in another Christopher Nolan movie? Yes. Will he lead another Christopher Nolan movie? Christopher Nolan doesn't really like to double up unless it's the Batman. He doesn't really double up. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever leads another Christopher Nolan movie, but lead another auteur filmmaker movie. That's what I'm most interested in. I'm sure he will lead a movie again, besides one he's already been in, a franchise like 28 Days Later, or again, be in another Christopher Nolan movie. But could he like squeeze into like, I don't know, a Denis Villeneuve movie? I'm just throwing names out there. It would be David Fincher, two of my three favorite directors. So yeah, like I would love to see him do that, but even take that next step, not just being a leading man in Hollywood, but for an auteur filmmaker. That's what I want to see. Be in and out of the Oscar nom race, right? Not necessarily getting nominated every year or every time he does a performance, but at least being in the race, having his name in the conversation. That is my expectations after Oppenheimer for Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, and you hear the stories. I've done a lot of like research on like what Cillian Murphy did to prep for this movie. Like the cast, they would go out for dinner regularly, and he didn't join them one time. He didn't join them one time to maintain his build, but also I think he felt the weight of this film, right, as it was being shot, right? And it was shot in record time, though, right? It was like 57 days. I think they shot Oppenheimer. I think that's what
Yep,
they're
57.
saying. So like, just like the immense pressure that he was under. I'm glad it wasn't for that long of a span of time, but I can't imagine like being the supporting guy all these years and given the opportunity and arguably one of the, you could argue the most important film of Christopher Nolan's career, personal career, aside from maybe The Dark Knight, right? But like The Dark Knight, people didn't anticipate it being that good, right? You have like the entire filmography of Christopher Nolan now, and then you have like coming off Tenet, like can he regain form? This is a hugely important movie, right? And it really is resting on the shoulders of Cillian Murphy. Okay, fifth round. I'm deciding whether I want to punt the draft. I'm going to punt it. I'm going to go with, for fifth round, an actor that has shown up in Christopher Nolan movies the same amount as Matt Damon. This is a zero-time NHL All-Star. I am going with Sean Avery in the fifth round, former New York Ranger, former Dallas Star. This is the start and probably the end of a lackluster Hollywood career. I got to go with one of the most interesting men on the planet. If you're not a hockey fan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you're on YouTube, I'll make sure to plug in of him getting absolutely the shit kicked out of him by Tim Thomas. Sean Avery, shout out hockey, shout out NHL, fifth round pick, punt, McAfee style.
Shout out Tenet. Shout out Tenet. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be a Christopher Nolan movies. He's the weatherman in this. Like, very interesting. Like, probably going to be like on the TV for 5 seconds. And that's it. When Oppenheimer's doing work in the kitchen while Emily Blunt's cooking him dinner. Like something like that. Something really small, but good for him. Still trying, skating, moving the legs. Good for him.
So I was debating on doing this because I was going to pick Christopher Nolan's daughter potentially at the end of this draft. I was gonna pick someone else that I don't want to take it potentially from you or like spoil your pick. But yeah, and I still think with this comedic effect, I could still win the draft. To be honest, for those who actually get the inside joke, other people are gonna be like, "Who the hell is Sean Avery?" And they're gonna type it in on Wikipedia or they're gonna go on YouTube and they're just gonna see arguably the biggest pest that has ever existed in NHL history. One of the most interesting dudes off the ice in the history of the NHL. A guy who would talk a bunch of crap. He would date supermodels. He would care about his health, but then still smoke cigs all the time, right? And act like he was the healthiest dude alive. He yells at people on the street for parking violations and for biking. He is a great follow on Instagram. If you haven't checked him out, he was in Tenet. And as I said before, he has appeared in the same amount of Nolan movies as Matt Damon, an earlier pick in my draft. Thank you.
I love the pick. Great pick. It might have been a punt, but it could have been a home run pick too. It could have been a home run.
But the thing is, but I was going to say, like, I could have picked like a couple other people here, but like they're great names and they're great actors. But in terms of like excitement I have for their performance, I'm going to be like, yeah, that was a nice like 5 minutes they were in. You know, it just seems like we picked like the people that are going to have the most substantial amount of screen time. So I had a couple other people in mind. We'll go over it with honorable mentions.
Well, I think everyone left, or a lot of people left that could be picked, are very small screen times. Like Emma Mackey, a hot name right now after trying to get Lois Lane in the next Superman, right?
Sean Avery.
You know, she's not going to be in a lot. Michael Cera, you know, to go throwback to our childhood. Shout out Nez, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but also super bad. Not picking him. Even this is the end. Great cameo-ish, extended cameo in that. But a little weird for me, as in Michael Cera is, and he's not in a lot, even though he's starting to get back into it. That show on Backs with Soderbergh, I think, right? The Full Circle or something.
And he's going to be the lead in Wes Anderson's next movie.
So he's kind of back.
But I was debating on picking him.
I'm not going to pick him either. I'm not a Rami Malek guy. I don't think he should have won the Oscar. I'm out. John Cena. I will love.
He's on the list for me. He was on the big board.
I would like, you can't see him. I would love, like, in real life, if I could be John Cena, WWE superstar. But no, Fast and Furious. I'm out. Simu Liu, too early, but potential is there, and he looks great in this movie. A performance I'm looking forward to seeing. I have a couple other names here. I will save them for honorable mentions. I won't go through everything, but I'm going to pick someone that's just starting their career in acting.
Wow.
Who is a international pop star. And I'm picking Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa was my number 10, and I'm just picking her here.
This is a punt off.
It's a punt off.
It's a punt off.
She's going to be Mermaid Barbie, but I do love her in... Well, she's fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's Dua Lipa. Did you see her at the premiere? But also...
Real life Barbie.
Fantastic star. Like, pop star. Love a lot of her songs. Like, actual fan. And, yeah, like, I am interested. She's going to be in Argyle, that Netflix movie with Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill. So, I will be interested. Is it going to be like Harry Styles and fluster out or flare out, or will she have more of a mainstay and actually put in an effort here? So yes, it's a punt off. Dua Lipa is my final pick.
So I don't think she's really going to be in the movie much, to be honest. But like, I didn't know she was appearing in Argyle. That's pretty cool. So it's like she does have a perspective acting career. I mentioned Margot Robbie. Like Haley Atwell was like competing, trying to get into that Margot Robbie sphere of like appealing actresses. Margot Robbie doesn't touch Dua Lipa, bro. No one touches Dua Lipa, right? An absolute goddess of all goddesses, right? She can do no wrong in my eyes. And I will listen to her music despite the sound I may not find that great, right? She may not be the greatest singer, but boy, she can dance. Let's see her as a mermaid in Barbie. I think it's genius casting. I like this pick. It's a punt off. Great.
Punt off.
What we're going to do, we'll get to honorable mentions. I'll read off the rosters of both of our drafts, and there are so many names left on the board that we both consider drafting. Ricky Flex went through a couple of them, but there's so much left to go, so we'll get to it. But on Dr. O's squad, he picked Margot Robbie, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Cillian Murphy, and Sean Avery. And then Ricky's Barbenheimer team includes Ryan Gosling, Robert Downey Jr., Will Ferrell, Emily Blunt, and Dua Lipa. Honorable mentions, Ricky Flicks, you gave a couple. I just want to give like who I was considering with my fifth rounder. I was going to pick actually Benny Safdie. And I think he is a fascinating pick. If I was taking this draft seriously, I might have actually taken him in the fifth round. I think people like early in his career breaks in with his brother, Safdie brothers, obviously. Good Time, Uncut Gems. He's now gone more into the acting field, right? He was obviously a co-star of Robert Pattinson, Good Time, kind of a breakthrough performance there. Then he's in Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza. PTA actually had a conversation with Christopher Nolan to pitch Benny Safdie for Oppenheimer. So it appears that he's going to have an accent in this film. He's going to be a scientist alongside Oppenheimer here. I think it's a great opportunity for him. I have a feeling like he's going to be a star. I just do. It feels like the real cinephiles are already huge Benny Safdie's fans for a multitude of reasons, whether it be as a filmmaker or as an actor. I think his resume is pretty kick-ass, right? When you think about the director he is, the films he's made, and then you're working with PTA, right? And then Christopher Nolan. He's someone to definitely look out for in the future. And he was in one of the most warmly received movies of the year with Dear God, It's Me, Margaret. He was also in that film. So it just seems like he really doesn't miss and has great taste. And I'm really excited for the future of his career. So if I'm going like long-term with my team, he was definitely up there.
He was my actual number 10 if I didn't pick Dua Lipa. But you're right. And he's versatile. Like he can direct and write, like with his brother, Good Time, Uncut Gems, right? But again, like he also acted a Good Time, right? And you mentioned Licorice Pizza, or Dear God, either It's Me, Margaret, briefly in Pieces of a Woman. But he's working with these great filmmakers and acting. And he's also learning, right? And that'll help with the directing side as well, which he'll do less of, and he's confirmed that. But yeah, like if you're going long term, like an actual draft, like in sports, he's like he'd probably be high on my list. Like I'd probably higher than 10. I probably should have had him higher than 10 on my big board. But yeah, and accent in this movie, like fantastic. I can't wait to see his performance in this, even though it's probably going to be very small. It's probably going to be bigger than a couple of the ones that we drafted.
Yeah, he's adding to the arsenal, I think, a little bit with this accent, right? Like, hey, look what I can do now. But I think I messed up the title. I think it's Dear God, Are You There? It's Me, Margaret. It's a very long title.
Bad title.
I think you said it right. I said it wrong. I haven't checked it out. I think it's streaming right now, though, so I might watch it. I don't know. I feel like it might put me to sleep if I watch it too late at night. Someone else I considered. This person has not appeared in one trailer. I think he's going to be in 1 second of this movie because the person he plays will hold such a heavy weight, and it's the guy who's playing President Truman in Oppenheimer. It feels slimy that we didn't put Gary Oldman on this draft, but he's just not going to be in this movie much. Like if you have like President Truman in the Oppenheimer movie about the atomic bomb, he kind of like takes a lot of that gravity, a lot of that force from the movie, and it takes it from Oppenheimer and puts it on that character. So I don't think he's going to be in it much. But Gary Oldman, I'm fascinated by him because I now view him after his Oscar win. He was always a great actor, like bursting on the scene, Air Force One, and then Leon the Professional, and then like so many other films.
True
Like
Romance, even before all
like,
those.
yeah, True Romance, and then like when we were growing up, he was like Sirius Black. It's like, and then he like goes into this next act of his career, like the third act of his career. And I now put him in the same category of like British, like theater type actors, like thespians, alongside guys like Anthony Hopkins. Like I put him in that category now. I think he's kind of transitioned there. Not necessarily Daniel Day-Lewis, but like just below that. Seems very picky with his projects nowadays. Seems like he's not acting at the volume that he was like a decade ago. He's in Wild Horses, which is like a very much adult, like Apple TV, little slower paced TV show. Just cares about making good projects nowadays. But Gary Oldman was someone I also considered.
Yeah, it's weird. Like he started out like True Romance, JFK, played Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
The one you mentioned, Air Force One, like the '90s, like weird era for him. Like, and then he pivoted to Harry Potter, and also Book of Eli, of Eli with
Commissioner
Denzel,
Gordon back with Nolan.
Commissioner Gordon, like weird like career up to a point where like he didn't really get like he was kind of like casted as a wild man in the '90s and kind of in the 2000s too. Not like we know him today. So definitely not a Daniel Day-Lewis where he's in 10 movies and that's it. And every one of them is an Oscar nominated performance. It's like he had to work for it and prove his worth. And like people like Christopher Nolan having to say he's the best actor in Hollywood, like things like that.
Who else is in that realm? Like it's like I think I literally do like think him as like a peer to Anthony Hopkins. I think like they're in the same category personally. Once he won that Oscar. Trying to think of anyone else
in that like high class,
like
Leo.
No, but like no, not like
like
I'm talking about like older British actors that are just have a level of respect on their name.
Mark Rylance. I don't know.
Mark Rylance isn't bad. It's all Rylance also kind of a late like he was a late bloomer, so he's not in the same category. I think it's like those two I think of. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting. I was thinking those two names back to back for some reason. Okay. Rami Malek I was never going to pick. I don't respect his game, right? Despite the Oscar win. Just kind of the opposite of Gary Oldman that we just talked about. Kingsley Benadir is an interesting one because he's the villain of Secret Invasion right now. We'll see what the screen time he has here. He's playing a Ken in Barbie World. I heard good things about his performance actually, and then he's like kind of like the right hand man of Ken. So we'll see how that plays out on screen and how much energy he has. And I would have been.
I was high up on my billboard too, just outside my top 10. Bob Marley, he's playing Bob Marley.
Already playing Malcolm X. Like he's got a pretty good resume.
Yeah, like he's building up, and he's like kind of that like English theater background too. So he's a great actor. And like again, like One Night in Miami playing Malcolm X, we kind of got to see that kind of like theater style type of movie. And now like he's in Secret Invasion. Probably the only good thing in Secret Invasion is his acting ability. Like I'm really hyped for the Bob Marley movie. Even though like I am a Bob Marley, like I listen to his music. It's in like one of my playlists, but I'm not like an avid fan. But I am so pumped to see that movie just because of Kingsley Benadir.
Yeah. Yes, him as Bob Marley is enticing. A little concerned about the release date. We talked about that, like the January, like early January release date. Hopefully that's not a factor whatsoever in the performance of the film. Josh Peck. We're getting Josh Peck. Like I thought that was going to be potentially a Mr. Irrelevant just because it's like also our childhood. It's like kind of like Will Ferrell's childhood pick, like Josh Peck, childhood pick. Different categories, obviously. You're at different levels. Simu Liu, I love that you brought him up. Like, I think this is going to be like a potential star-making performance for him outside of like Shang-Chi, right? And something he can do on the big screen that is at least noticeable because I've never seen him do anything else. And lastly, frequent collaborator with Nolan, Kenneth Branagh, right? Not one of my favorite actors, honestly, but I did like Belfast a lot, right? So I like him as a filmmaker, but when it just doesn't do it for me, when he is like in a Nolan movie. He's not someone I'm like even him as the villain in Tenet. I'm like, yeah, like we're doing it with Branagh. I feel like you could have gotten someone better, but I digress.
Yeah, he clearly like appreciates Brano. Like, God, what was that movie? Not Hamlet. He did like a 1994, I think.
I thought it
Like
was Hamlet.
some. Oh, was it Hamlet? Yeah,
Macbeth?
it might have been Macbeth, something like that. He directed. I got like an Oscar nom, something like that. So he definitely has like that appreciation from Nolan, I think, on that level as a filmmaker, and also clearly as an actor. Like we Kenneth Branagh, Dunkirk, I just watched last night. Uh, Small role, but I did like him in that. Tenet, didn't necessarily love him in that. Couldn't really understand him. Didn't have to make him like a Russian, but whatever. Yeah, was never gonna pick him, but had to
Hamlet.
be mentioned.
Hamlet.
Yeah, it is Hamlet. Okay.
He did Henry V back in 1989 too.
Henry V. That's
He
what
is. It's really weird because, well, you kind of get why he directed Thor then, like the Shakespearean background. You know, I kind of get that. But then he now is more known for what character does he play in the Agatha Christie movies? What's his name again?
Oh my God, I don't know.
He had the weird mustache.
Yes.
I have it right here.
Yeah.
Poirot, Detective Poirot. Is that right? Poirot. Think that's it. Whatever. Who cares? Okay. So that's our draft. That was our preview for the cast of Barbenheimer. There is only one thing left to do at this point. We have to see this double feature. Ricky Flex, any final comments before we preview the upcoming episodes and what to expect before we send the audience off?
If you're seeing Barbenheimer, right, both movies on the same day, we'll put out a poll. We'll figure it out. But we would love to hear your thoughts on what you saw first, your experience seeing both in the same day. All right. So we'll put up like an Instagram story, maybe also a tweet, and just like we'll love to hear your comments. And like we'll list out some like the best like reviews or reactions or stories that you tell on the pod. All right. So just or send us a DM if you don't want to do like a response. We'd love to hear some
Send
funny
us videos. We'll repost videos,
yeah.
like pictures, whatever it may be. This is going to be one of the biggest movie theater experiences we've had in quite some time. And once again, at the drive-in, we are concerned with making movie theaters cool again. All right, let's try and move towards that. Okay. Anything else? Ricky Flicks, check up on Friday. Some interesting news going on with the strike, little strike talk probably with the actors and the writers.
Double strike.
Talk about double strike, just like the double punt today. Residuals, actors pissed off. James Gunn's brother. We'll talk about it all. We're gonna talk about Masters of the Universe getting canceled by Netflix after it cost them $30 million already. Not the best look with the strike going on. We'll get into everything, and then we might even do the slight reactions, right, to Barbie or Oppenheimer on Friday, depending on when we see Ricky sees the movie, when we record. Monday, Barbenheimer review, reactions to both films. Make sure you stay locked in. Wherever you're listening right now, make sure that rate us 5 stars. Leave us a review. Make sure you are subscribed or following the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and comment on the video. If you comment, we'll comment back. We like to have some discourse between the listeners and us. And on social media, follow us at the Drive-In Pod on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of great stuff coming graphics-wise from Ricky Flex. Stay up to date with the latest movie news, especially with all the strikes going on. So that's going to do it for episode 249 of TDI. Until next time, we will smell ya.